Hi everyone, and welcome to Remaking Tomorrow, a series of conversations about the future of teaching and learning. I'm Ryan Radzeski here with Greg Baer. We're the co-authors of When You Wonder, You're Learning, Mr. Rogers' Enduring Lessons for Raising Creative, Curious, Caring Kids.
This is a podcast powered by Remake Learning, a network that ignites engaging, relevant, and equitable learning in support of young people navigating rapid social and technological change.
On today's episode, we're talking with Dorie Taylor and Yu-Ling Cheng, the producer and co-producer of Remake Learning Days across America, the world's largest open house for innovative teaching and learning, which invites families to explore, wonder, and learn together. Dorie and Yu-Ling, welcome to Remaking Tomorrow.
Ryan and Greg, thank you for having us.
We're excited to be here.
Dorie, we're so excited today to talk about Remake Learning Days. It's a family festival that springs forth from this incredible learning landscape that we call Remake Learning. So what is Remake Learning Days?
Remake Learning Days across America is a celebration of innovative experiences and opportunities for youth and families. Youth are able to develop their sense of creativity, perseverance, curiosity with events held in all the places and spaces youth and families can learn. And that could be the school, to the library, to the art museum, and to a small business in one's community. So it's a really joyful opportunity for youth and mentors, caregivers, family members to learn alongside each other.
So Ryan and I are imagining that there are events in all of these places, Dorie, that you just described. Yu-Ling, why do this? What's happening in these places?
Parents are always looking for resources for their kids. They want to help them find new passions to develop their curiosity. So going into your own neighborhood to see what exists at the libraries, at the museums, as Dorie spoke about, may spark something new for your child, and to be there to witness it and to support it are the reasons why we do Remake Learning Days.
Great. So I want to give our listeners some idea of what specific Remake Learning Days events look like. And Dorie, you've been producing the festival for a couple of years now. Can you tell us about some of your favorite events over the years? Where were they? Who did they involve? And what kind of things were taking place?
We encourage event hosts to host events that are arts, maker, outdoor learning, science, technology, or youth voice themed. When I think about some of my favorite Remake Learning Days events, I think about those that fall under outdoor learning. With outdoor learning, we all might be surprised to know that we can learn about art. We can make paint by using leaves or using grass. In outdoor learning, we can architect our own forts with wood and materials.
Over the years, I think about some of my favorite events. So I think about one where my older daughter and I went to a museum. We went and learned about a specific exhibit about women's contributions to World War II. And then we went upstairs with all the other parents and kids and created this collaborative art. We got to paint outside on the balcony, and then we brought it in and put it together into a mosaic. And then I think about an event I went to at a school, and they had a very clever theme. It was a carnival theme. And so they had a student that greeted you at the door wearing a top hat. They had 3 rings that you went to, and each one had a different activity. And the activities were led by the students, but the parents and their kids would do the activities. And so they were learning alongside each other. Another event that I went to, which, people don't think about this, was at a laundromat. And it was about learning different cultures. And there was story time, there were activities with it, and then every kid that attended the event walked away with a book. So those are just some of my favorite ones over the years. So there's really something for everyone.
Dorie, Remake Learning Days began in Pittsburgh. It's no longer limited to Pittsburgh, and we'll get to that in a minute. But can you tell us a bit about how the festival got started, and maybe a bit about how it's evolved over the past few years?
The festival started in Pittsburgh in 2016, really answering the question, what if all of us, teachers, parents, community members, were learning allies? We all were working together for children. And let's invite youth and parents into this conversation with all of the educators in the community, teachers, librarians, business owners. So we're all working for a shared goal joyful learning. So it's really a festival that occurred over a few days in 2016 and kept going year after year to a 7 to 10 day festival across many communities, rural communities, suburban communities, urban communities, all across southwestern Pennsylvania and West Virginia. And from there, we were able to launch Remake Learning Days across America with festivals from the West Coast to the East and places in between.
So we want to explore in a minute how this has expanded from a little corner of the world called southwestern Pennsylvania and northern West Virginia to places across America, maybe even places across the world. Yu-Ling, to hear Dorie describe it, Remake Learning Days provides opportunities for parents, families, and caregivers to become learning allies for their kids. And I heard you describing events, and I heard Dorie describing events too, that are taking place in STEM labs and maker learning spaces. And it sounds like these are also opportunities to connect parents, families, and caregivers to the learning that's happening today and the learning that's lighting kids up. Is that right?
We do this specifically in the springtime so that families have time to explore these places and spaces where kids are learning so they continue the learning in the summertime. The celebratory feel is because every organization, school, nonprofit, they come together to do this. We make a lot of noise about the joyful moments in learning. In fact, we asked all of our event hosts, when you think about wondering for families, what does that even mean? And they gave words like, we want to spark a child's imagination. We want to illuminate something new. We want to amaze them. We want them to see future possibilities. And we want to remind parents to be childlike and imagine, right? And experience the magic of learning. And we know from the Global Family Research Project that when kids attend a Remake Learning Days event with a family member, they're more likely to enjoy it and want to come back. They want that experience with their parent and caregiver.
I think it's interesting that you bring that up, Yu-Ling, because we often think kids, they want to have fun, but they don't necessarily want us, the adults, around, right? They don't want to do everything with their parents. They don't want to do everything with their teachers. But the research coming out of Remake Learning Days, Dorie, seems to indicate the opposite. And what is it about those events, do you think, that brings kids and their caregivers closer together?
Well, the event host creates this inviting environment. It invites caregivers and mentors and aunts and uncles or grandparents to be silly with their child or wonder with their child or get a little confused, but then find a happy ending in a project. We're thankful, again, for all of the event hosts, all of those teachers, educators who open their doors and invite families in.
And it sounds like maybe families aren't coming to just one event, but they're coming to an event and then maybe finding other things in the community. Is that right? They're maybe coming to an event at the school in the STEM lab, but then finding they can go to the science center or a neighborhood organization to find similar types of things. Is this right, Yu-Ling?
We really think of Remake Learning Days across America as the world's largest open house of innovative learning. So families can explore all different types of events in different spaces. And we think a lot about the family experience. We ask our event hosts to make sure they host it at a time that is friendly for parents to take their kids. The majority of events, 97% of them are free. And the ones that do charge, it's low cost. So we take away those barriers. And once they do that and they experience it and they see that spark in their child, it drives them to then want to explore more events.
There's so many events that take place during Remake Learning Days. It's a choose your own adventure experience for families.
I agree. Remake Learning Days is a choose your own adventure. I remember going to events and hearing families talk to each other and kids telling each other what they were going to do next. And then kids would say, I want to go try that. I want to do that. Oh, I had no idea that was happening. And so before you know it, families are going on their own adventure during the Remake Learning Days festival.
This is Greg Bear along with Ryan Rudzeski. We're talking with Dorie Taylor, the producer, and Yu-Ling Cheng, the co-producer of Remake Learning Days across America.
Dorie, I love this idea of a sometimes fun, sometimes silly, sometimes a little confusing, but always low-stakes learning environment, a place where kids can just explore and wonder with their caregivers. There's some science out there about the value of sampling, of exposing kids to lots and lots of different things. So maybe that's the arts, maybe that's outdoor learning, maybe that's something in a maker space. This is the method, of course, that Fred Rogers used in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Every episode took kids all over his neighborhood, sometimes all over the world, so they could see all these different things that were out there and available to them. Can you talk about the value of sampling and what it is that kids can discover when they're exposed to this giant menu of events that Remake Learning Days provides?
We really encourage the opportunity for youth pre-K through 12th grade and their families to experience all of these types of events. You mentioned arts, maker, outdoor, science, tech, youth voice. Well, what a great opportunity. When the majority of events are free, you can drop into an event that's an hour long, 2 hours long, a whole afternoon, and you can dabble in all types of hands-on learning experiences.
Dorie, I imagine this leads to all kinds of joyful surprises, right? Maybe a child picks up a robot for the first time, or maybe a child picks up a paintbrush for the first time. Can you tell us about some families and kids discovering something new that interests them?
We've heard from a lot of families over the years, and one great quote that I remember is a parent saying, "We had a lot of fun. It was interesting to see the children teach the parents. Maybe a little frustrating also. We still had some good laughs. I had zero experience with Scratch, and now I, as the parent, understand it a little bit. Most importantly, my child said he really liked it." So that's just a quote that sticks with us when we think about family engagement and how parents experience an event with their child.
Yu-Ling, Dorie mentioned earlier that Remake Learning Days was first held in 2016 across the Pittsburgh region with hundreds of events that year. But she mentioned that it is now Remake Learning Days across America. So this is taking place in cities beyond Pittsburgh. And if that's the case, do you have a playbook? Do you have a toolkit? Do you have national partners? How has this taken root elsewhere?
When we started this festival in 2016, it was an experiment. We wanted to see if we could create a joyful celebration in the community and elevate all the learning, and most importantly, bring parents and caregivers into the conversation. It took off, and people enjoyed it that first year. Word started to spread. So 2 years later, we hosted a bus tour. People flew in from all over the United States to witness Remake Learning Days, to see how that could help strengthen their ecosystem, bring parents into the conversation, see the magic that happens with the learning. And so from that bus tour in 2019, we expanded into 9 different regions for Remake Learning Days, from East Coast to West Coast. And today we have 17 regions participating. There's a toolkit that anyone can use, whether you're officially part of Remake Learning Days or not. We share everything that we've learned. We shared how to involve event hosts, the survey methodology that we use to get input, how we do community outreach to parents, how we drive conversations on social media using the hashtag Remake Days, how to think about designing a great event for families, taking away all the barriers that we spoke about. And so that is a freely available toolkit at remakelearningdays.org.
So Ryan and I are looking at this website right now, remakelearningdays.org, and we can see that Remake Learning Days is happening in Chicago, San Diego, Chattanooga, Eastern Kentucky. Dorie, what does Remake Learning Days look like in Eastern Kentucky?
Remake Learning Days looks, as you can imagine, different in all of the regions. In Eastern Kentucky, it's really a celebration of Appalachia. It's a celebration of hands-on learning and making and what that means for that region. We're talking about quilting, and we're talking about a lot of traditional learning through song and storytelling, and of course, robotics and science and technology as well. So it's, a real celebration of tradition and innovation.
Dorie, we love that idea of combining quilting and robotics in a place like Appalachia in Eastern Kentucky. And Yu-Ling, we'd imagine it's entirely different in a place like San Diego or Washington, D.C. or Sarasota, Florida.
These events across the nation are all amazing and interesting and unique. So I think about San Diego, and they had an event behind the science of tortilla making. You learned about tortilla making, but at the same time, you learned why these ingredients, when they come together, create that wonderful piece of food. I think about Kansas City, where they did a lot of events with their sports teams. And so you could learn the math behind scorekeeping at a baseball game, or the physics of swinging a bat. Washington, D.C., I think about all the events that they have with museums. And a lot of those events are actually virtual, so no matter where you are, you can tune in to one of the Smithsonian museums or learn about the National Postal Museum. In Sarasota, there's a lot of outdoor learning events, and there's a lot of literacy events. You can also learn about bees and how they make honey at the Agricultural Museum. With all of these, it's supported by our national partners, PBS Kids, Common Sense Media, Learning Heroes, and Digital Promise. And we help elevate these different types of learning events to families across the nation, and also think about how this then starts to build the learning ecosystem in each region.
Dorie, for our listeners across the country, whether they're dads in D.C. or moms in Chicago, or teachers, librarians, museum curators, or after-school educators on the West Coast, how can they find out more about Remake Learning Days across America? Let's say I hear the festival is coming to my town or my region. Where do I look? How do I find out what to expect?
We encourage families, youth, and teens to visit the website, remakelearningdays.org, to find events that resonate with them. They can search by age, by theme, by location. So this is a one-stop shop to find events during the festival.
And Yu-Ling, this work for you and Dorie, it's not just a professional gig. You're both parents, and you've experienced Remake Learning Days not only in your own backyards, but in some of these other cities across the country. So why is Remake Learning Days important to you? How have you experienced it personally?
I'm a mom of 2 young girls, and I love seeing how curious they are about things, how things work. They like to try things with their hands, tear it apart and put it together. It's taught me how to support that learning, how to make time for it, be intentional about it, how to explore new neighborhoods. My kids, they didn't realize at first all the different type of maker activities they could do at a library. They had never been in a professional recording studio, where then they proceeded to record, snippets from one of their favorite Broadway shows with their friends. They started to reimagine different careers that they could have, and it also gave them the exposure to see that the possibilities are limitless.
Dorie?
I am a mother to 2 boys, and they have been on the Remake Learning Days journey with me over the years. 1 year, my older son even declared Remake Learning Days the best experience of the whole year. And I believe that year we traveled to Italy. So for him, Remake Learning Days was the best part of the year. I love Remake Learning Days and taking my children and really seeing them learn new skills and find what they're excited to do more of. We've tried robots, programming robots. We have tried outdoor painting and making. So the experiences have been varied, and it's just been joyful to watch my sons grow and try new things year after year.
So who needs a passport to travel abroad when you have a passport for great innovative learning through Remake Learning Days, right?
Dorie and Yu-Ling, before we go, just one more question for each of you. What is one thing that parents and educators can do today to make tomorrow a more promising place for every learner? Dorie, let's start with you.
It's up to parents and caregivers and family members and community members to encourage the kids in their life to explore what's in the neighborhood, what's within the community, and resources that might be across town or virtually across the country. When kids are introduced to amazing resources, it's something that will stick with them and support their learning year after year.
I would add to Dorie's answer that it's also important to communicate. I think about teachers and parents and how much information they know about our children. And so a teacher might notice something and can tell the parent, and the parent can then help the child explore that further in the community, and vice versa. Maybe the parent takes the child to a local nonprofit and they try something new and they can tell the teacher. And by then you really create a personalized learning track for your child that'll inspire them to explore and remain curious.
Thanks again to Dorie Taylor and Yu-Ling Cheng, the producer and co-producer of Remake Learning Days across America, the world's largest open house for innovative teaching and learning, inviting families to explore, wonder, and learn together.
Remaking Tomorrow is powered by Remake Learning, a Pittsburgh-based network of people and organizations that ignite engaging, relevant, and equitable learning practices in support of young people navigating rapid social and technological change. Learn more at remakelearning.org/tomorrow.